Let me click the recording on. So welcome to the panelists and the attendees. This is week 4 of the Real Life Librarianship series, and tonight we are featuring school librarians. Yay! I'm very excited for this panel. I think a lot of you are. We've had a lot of questions in previous weeks about things related to school library jobs. So I think there's a lot of interest in what you guys do. Certainly I find it fascinating. In upcoming weeks, you guys can see on your screens for our attendees, in 2 weeks on October 21st, we will be featuring government librarians, then archivists, cataloging and metadata librarians, and non-traditional librarians will round out the 2020s. We will be picking it back up in January of 2021, but that is all we have on tap for the end of this year. And once again, we do have the evaluation linked right there on the screen, and I will go ahead and send that out to all of you that attended tomorrow as well. But if you wanted to copy that down now, you certainly could. No one will stop you. And welcome to our panelists today. We are featuring a panelist, one each from an elementary school, a middle school, and a high school library. So it'll be very exciting to hear all of the different things that they are going to tell us about their jobs. And as always, we begin with the first question, which is to our panelists to introduce yourself. Tell us, what is your current job title? Where do you work? And then where did you go to school? And give us kind of an overview of the path that you took to get to your job today. All right? And Amy, I'm going to start with you.
Okay. My name is Amy Carney, and I work at White Bear Lake Area High School North Campus, which is the 910 building at White Bear Lake. We soon will be a 912 building. It's coming in 2024-25. We're adding on to my building to house all of us in one space, which will be wonderful. It hasn't been like that since the early 80s, so I'm very excited about that. I have been in White Bear for this is my 5th year. Before that, I was in North Branch. I was at North Branch High School for 4 years before that, and then I was a 6th grade teacher for 12 years before that. I got my undergrad at UMD, and if I would have known back then, because they don't have a library, school media, any kind of program up there. In fact, they hardly even had a library when I was going there. But if they would have had that back then, I think I would have quit. But my whole life, I just thought I was going to be an elementary teacher, and so that's what I did for my undergrad. And then when I was doing my student teaching, I met a woman named Joyce, and I can't think of what her last name is now, but she was at Columbia Heights, and she was amazing. She was very tall. I don't know if anybody remembers her, but she told me that, you know, you're a teacher, you could be a media specialist, you just have to go back and get your master's. And I was like, so I started that my 2nd year of teaching. I started going to get my master's at St. Cloud State, and took me a really, really long time because I had babies in the meanwhile and whatnot, but eventually finished and got the job just in time at North Branch High School, which was nice because I could just switch from the middle school to the high school, and I still knew the district, and it felt like a really great transition from being a reading teacher and an English teacher to being a media specialist, because I got to do a lot of the same things with the kids just when they came to me instead of me being in their teacher. So does that answer all the questions?
That's perfect. That is great, Amy. Thank you. And let's go to Linda.
So my name is Linda Dirks, and it's been a long journey to get here. I started with an undergraduate at Southwest State, Minnesota, Marshall. I don't know what it's called now, University of Minnesota. Anyway, down in Marshall, Minnesota. And I finished with an elementary education degree there. So I went and taught, I taught kindergarten, 1st grade, 3rd grade, 5th grade. Started in a tiny little rural school out near Marshall. When my husband and I decided to move to the cities, then I got a job in Minnetonka. So I was a 4th grade teacher there, then a 5th grade teacher. Went down to 1st grade. And eventually then when I had my first baby, decided to go part-time. So I was a kindergarten teacher, which had always been my goal. So loved it until I didn't, for various reasons. And my husband and I had moved out to Carver in the meantime. So I was commuting back and forth between Minnetonka and Carver. And one of my former classmates at Southwest was now the principal at our tiny little area school. And he started campaigning. He's like, "You're already part-time. Come and be the media specialist out here. We're part-time. It'll be perfect. Come on." So after 3 years of deciding, going maybe, maybe not, I jumped ship and came on a variance. So I was the part-time media specialist at a teeny tiny little one hallway school, and went to school for those 2 years then. So it was a really good thing to be part-time. I would learn something in the afternoon and the evening, and then I'd apply it the very next day. So that felt very hands-on. Then, oh, I don't know, maybe 10 years ago, trying to remember how long ago, I decided full-time was probably what I needed to do. My kids were old enough, so when there was an opening in the middle school, I decided to hop up there, and I've been there since. So I'm at Chaska Middle School East, and we are a fairly large district, so I'm one of 3 middle schools. There's 2 high schools and I think 8 elementaries. I did get my master's in education back when I was in the classroom, and then went for my library media specialist, like I said, when I was on that variance those first 2 years. Oh, my title. Oh my gosh. Just call me the library lady. It is now Information Innovation Learning Specialist. It's quite a mouthful that we're kind of trying to reclaim as media specialist because no one really knows, but a big long title. It sounds really cool. And it is what we do, but yeah.
Wow. I've heard a lot of titles for media specialists. That's a good one.
Where did you go to college for your library?
So for library, I went online at St. Scholastica. And then for my master's of education was St. Mary's, again, online. And online was so much harder. I learned so much more than I did in person. They had great professors.
And what grades are you in middle school?
Middle school, I am 6 through 8.
Okay. It can vary, so I just wanted to be clear. And also I have to say that I've had a little thumbnail of you since we started, and now you were full screen for me when you're talking, and I just realized you're in Hogwarts Library. At first I thought it was just like a big fancy library, but now it's quite clear to me specifically where you are coming to us today from.
You need to be special. You need to be specific. Come on. The craziness of Hogwarts kind of fits middle school. Things flying everywhere.
Oh, it's perfect. I love it. Well, thank you so much, Linda. And let's meet Diane.
Hi there. My name is Diane Kerstetter. I am the library media specialist at Southview Elementary in Apple Valley. It's in District 196. This is my 9th school district. Yeah, oh yeah, because they keep cutting media specialists. So but I'm in 196, and it has a wonderful reputation for supporting media specialists. And so I feel like I've landed in a good spot, and hopefully this is it, and I can retire from this district because I cannot do one more week of new teacher training. I can run them at this point. So I'm feeling good. So I kind of had a convoluted way to get here too. I started out getting my undergrad degree from St. Thomas in elementary ed, and then I was a double major, so English. And then I got a teaching job teaching 8th grade math in Minneapolis in a middle school. So completely outside of my licensure for many different reasons. And I liked it. I mean, I really liked middle school kids. But then, then when you have middle school kids of your own, you don't really like them so much because you don't ever leave them. But anyway, so I was laid off in Minneapolis. They cut all non-tenured teachers. So I taught math for a year, then I did reading and language arts for 2 years. So I decided, had a baby, decided that I needed to do something. I knew I wasn't cut out as a stay-at-home mom. That just was, I needed something else for myself. So little tiny Marine on St. Croix Elementary was hiring for a part-time media specialist. So it was a day and a half a week. And so I applied and they hired me. And at the time I had started at St. Thomas for my special ed license. So I think I was 2 or 3 classes in, but I fell in love with that library. I mean, I've always loved children's literature, but it was like, this is my spot. Like, this is where I need to be. So I quit at St. Thomas. I transferred to St. Kate's, and that's where I got my master's degree. So I was a media specialist in Minneapolis for 7 years. I got my job. I did a year in Woodbury, a year in Shakopee. That was 2 years ago. I was a media specialist at 2 elementary schools. I had 1,600 students. It was awful. I mean, you cannot build relationships when you have 1,600 kids and you see them once every 10 cycle days. So now, like I said, now I'm in at Southview and I love it. And I'm hoping, yes, that I'm 50. I would like to stop moving. I would like to retire from there.
Wow, that is quite a path, Diane. Oh, okay. Well, I love hearing the intro stories. They're always fun to hear how everybody got to where they are. So let's now do the next question, which is pretend that you're speaking with someone who's never heard of libraries before. Now, describe your job. And Diane, I'm going to stay with you and I'm going to let you take that one.
Okay. I thought about this, and what I tell people is I read aloud for a living. That's what I do. I read out loud for the living. And when I hear people doing read alouds, I'm kind of judgmental in a way, because I've done it for so long that it's just ingrained in who I am and what I do. So yeah, I tell people I get paid to read out loud to kids, and mostly I do technology and I do digital citizenship and I do other things, but my biggest job is to help kids fall in love with books and reading. And that's my goal always.
That is great. What a good answer to that question. Linda.
Oh, I wish I could say that. Back in the day, elementary, I got to read every day to kids. Well, I'm kind of the picture what you think a school librarian does, and then what I think I do and what I actually do. I don't ever read during the school day. That is all on my own time, totally separate. But my job never looks the same 2 days in a row. I'm on a flex schedule, which means I don't have specific classes every single day. Instead, I rely on collaboration. So I'm co-teaching with teachers, a lot of research, process databases, how do you create and communicate what you've learned, revise what you've done, a lot of that. I also do, similar to Diane though, I think we all do that. Let's make sure our kids love reading, making sure we find something that is just right for them. So I'm running manga clubs, I'm doing one-on-one readers advisory with kids. This year is not a typical year. So I'm speaking about normal years. Similar to what Anne is saying, I have seen very little of kids this year. We've gone in phases, and I can talk about COVID year versus regular years, if you want that. So it's been a very—
We'll get to it.
yeah, very different year this year. But yeah, in general, it's a lot of small group, a lot of one-on-one, and then co-teaching as much as I am advocating for. And then the other big piece is support. So I do a lot of, because I'm a department head, really the only one there, and that's kind of a fancy way of just saying I run one center. I do a lot of advocacy with my administration, my district level. I do teacher support in form of PD tech trainings, lots and lots of tech. Though less now that we have more support in our district for technology. We've got a technology coach that goes between 3 buildings. I've got a phenomenal tech specialist that used to be a tech para. So I do get a lot of tech support, but we're a team together. So I think that's kind of what I do.
Great. Well, let's hear how different it is at the high school. Amy?
It's actually quite similar at the high school. I feel like we are doing parallel jobs. My biggest challenge though would be that high school kids are so busy. And when I went from teaching middle school and helping and student teaching in the middle school library and North Branch, and how much those kids read and how we could talk them into just about any book, and they would just burn through series, book after book after book. Then I went to the high school and I was just really working on updating the collection, and I got all these great books in, and then it was like, hello, who's going to come read these great books? And then I became an instructional coach, and I became the in part of the instructional support team in the district, because there really wasn't one for all the new initiatives and technology and the one-to-one and all that kind of stuff. And it was like the books were never on fire, and I was hardly ever in the space. And so we used to like put stuff in our calendar that said play with books or talk to children about books, and we'd write that in the calendar and like make that time every single day, and like try to get the language arts teachers to bring their kids in during that time so that we would remember what our job was actually supposed to be before it was taken over by all the other things. When I went to White Bear, I only had to be a media specialist, and when I would say I'm just a media specialist, people would say, "You're more than that." I'm like, no, people. I am very excited that I am just a media specialist, because you can get pulled in so many directions and then you do not have anything left. So I do a ton of readers advisory. We do the quick and dirty book talk right on the shelf. We throw them out on the table and say this one, this one, this one, and give them a couple sentences about each one, and then we walk away. And if they grab a book, great. If they grab all three, even better, and we're good to go. Really been focusing my couple years, and I think that's why they hired me in White Bear. I remodeled a media center in North Branch, and so they really needed that when I in White Bear, and so I started the year off by remodeling the media center, and then I've been working with them to remodel 4 other media centers in the district, and then now we're in the facility planning group that is remodeling all the new construction, including the new high school's media center. So I'm a huge thorn in their side, but they keep inviting me back. So I just keep telling them what I want.
Well, that's great. It's always wonderful to hear that they're putting money into the school library, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I don't think with me on staff, they're going to hear if they don't. So.
I like to hear that too. All right, we do have a question that has come in, and just a reminder to our attendees, please ask questions at any time. This panel is for you, so if you have a question, jump in at any time via the chat or the Q&A feature on your screens. And the first question is this. Someone asked, how do you deal with job insecurity? This person is a new school library media specialist and is terrified of their job getting cut. So does anyone want to tackle that? Go ahead if you're ready. Just jump in.
Okay, and I don't have good answers for you here. It's a reality. I think it's a reality for all of us right now. As I worry quite a bit for next year, considering all the costs and lost revenue that we have because of COVID this year. That being said, I am constantly advocating and proving my worth and making sure that I'm talking to my administration and being useful to them and showing why they have me and are paying my salary, which is much different than just staffing with a para, which many others are doing. I'm looking at what are the key concepts, the key needs from our district, and making sure that I am promoting how I support that. For example, equity is ginormous in Eastern Carver County. We made the news nationally not too long ago. And it's really good to come forward and say, look at what we're doing. Give me the tools to continue helping you do what you want to do. And then feature me when you need to have someone to show, and really being that. Then on a personal level, always thinking things like this. Look at different types of libraries. If you really were cut, would you be willing to go back to the classroom? Are you able to go back to the classroom if you ever were? Are there other types of librarians that you could fit into that would work really well? I really appreciate Olivia's and Anne's having this series just to look at, hey, these things are possible. So yeah, it's a stress for me, and I've been in this a long time.
Thanks, Linda.
You have some good ideas, but
I mean, I would echo that. It's advocacy for sure. You have to show why are you there. I spent my whole summer. And I'm not saying working for free is the answer. My kids are older now, and I don't spend the summers with them because, well, they're teenagers and they have better things to do. But I spent my summer genreifying my library, and it kept me busy, but it also, my principal knew I was in there. I completely changed how it looked when I started last year, making those connections with it. I'm on a prep schedule, so I'm not flex like Linda is. That's always been a dream. So, you know, I have a little more job security in some respects because, well, they have to have a prep, the teachers, the classroom teachers. So I would say, yeah, keeping in, but I will say, and I always, every year look for, I'm on EdPost and Metronet looking at the jobs for libraries, especially for school libraries. And it was really bad for a long time. The jobs were just not there. And this summer and even last summer, I was really surprised and pleased to see so many more openings. Of course, then COVID happened and now who knows. But I feel like the pendulum is swinging the other way again, where it's like, yep, we need school librarians, you know, and so I feel like that those jobs are coming again. And I think they're having a hard time finding applicants. I've been told actually from our HR that they have a hard time finding qualified applicants because no one's going to library school anymore to be a media specialist because the jobs just weren't there for so long.
I've interviewed probably for 4 different positions. I was on the interview committee to hire 4 media specialists in the last couple of years, 5 years probably, and it was really hard to find the kind of applicant that we were looking for that wasn't directly out of school and had 0 experience, because what we were looking for is someone who would integrate technology, someone who was comfortable with moving forward and not basing your library on a card catalog system. You know, just like that whole, let's talk about innovation. Let's talk about your, you know, if you ask somebody, what's the best thing you did last year in your job? And they say, I installed 3 iPads for Destiny checkout. I go, I did that last week. Like what? You know, so like it's hard to also get then if we're not producing this new generation of great media specialists, how do we fill these positions so that they know that this needs to keep going in the direction it's going? I don't know. That's a toughie for sure.
Okay, so I'm assuming that at least some of our attendees are in library school right now, and maybe some of them are even pursuing the media specialist licensure. So how do they get that experience? What's the route that they should be taking if what you're looking for is someone that's not fresh out of library school?
You know, I just had to tell our administrators that this is not the same as teaching, and you want someone fresh out of library school, because most of the people that are coming fresh out of library school have probably taught for 5 or 6 years. And so they have the classroom management. They have the, you know, all those aspects that makes a good teacher already, an experienced teacher already. We need their fresh ideas and their fresh vibes, and we will take them in fact, we will take them as student teachers and then hire them the next semester. Because we know for sure that then they're going to do it the White Bear way and it's going to be all good. Plus they have all that great new innovative, you know, information that you get from just finishing school. So I think that administrators have to change their brains as to experience is not the thing. And you know what? I've met a couple of media specialists that have had their license for 12 years, taught for a long time, just decided to go back into the field. And they actually said, I don't remember how to catalog a book. I don't remember how to use Destiny. I don't remember any of that stuff. And I said to them, you know what? I can teach you all that. I can teach you all that over a certain amount of time, but your innovation, the way you think outside the box, the way you put students first, the way you love literature, the way you understand databases, that's what we're looking for, not someone who can card catalog or can catalog a book. I don't know, I just feel like it's different.
That's, I think, super helpful, very practical things to be looking out for.
I'd agree with Amy on that too, because you just like any job, you've got to think about who's interviewing you. And there was probably one media specialist on the team, but everyone else in that room is not asking media specific questions. They're asking questions about how do you collaborate? What are your new ideas? You know, seeing how you fit in to what their district is already trying to accomplish. So if you can find out what their goals are, you know, what they're working towards, be it, you know, right now in the last couple of years, equity is huge, distance learning is huge, and you just have to look to see what is it that they're looking for, and you find a way to fill that. Now, like Amy said, you still have to do all those things you learn in library school, and that's what you have to educate your administrator that, hey, it's not just me sitting around buying books all day. And that's it. I do have to do that, and I have to do that really well, because this is how it fits into equity, and this is how it fits into and how I'm going to support you. So yeah.
Okay. That's very helpful. And I kind of feel like we danced sort of into the hiring process for these jobs a little bit there, which is good. But let's talk a little bit about the basics for these jobs. So minimum qualifications and a starting salary, or a ballpark of a starting salary for these jobs. Diane.
There's really not necessarily a minimum qualification, because a lot of us, I think, I got started with a variance. So because I was already in school, but I know people who get hired and then start school. So almost everyone wants you to have your K-12 library media license. And then it's gravy if you have your master's degree, but that's never been, you know, no one has ever told me you have to have that. It's the K-12 license. That's a big deal. As far as starting salaries, I don't really know, because I haven't had to look. I'm kind of tapped out where I'm at with my master's and my experience. So I have no idea, but I mean, you're on the teacher's pay scale. So the same thing as a teacher makes. So it's not, you're never going to get rich. But you know, you can support yourself, which, you know, I think is important. The benefits are usually good. My benefits are great. And you can't really discount that, especially now. So yeah, I don't feel like teachers are not paid what they're worth, for sure. And I don't think there's a single person who has kids in school who has been a teacher would ever say that teachers are paid what they're worth. But I don't think it's an awful salary.
Okay. Let me ask you this, Dan, since you've bounced around quite a bit, is there a lot of difference between districts? Does it matter what district that you're in?
It does, quite a bit, actually. When I got my first teaching job in Minneapolis, we used to say it was combat pay. They would have to pay more, and that's what they called it. I mean, it's culturally insensitive, but that's what I was told, you know, when I went in, and like, well, we pay more, and this is why. And I taught it at a middle school, and we had fights, and we had stuff there, but I mean, I loved that job, you know, but I got paid more because it was Minneapolis versus somewhere in the suburbs. Although I will be really honest with you, when I worked in Woodbury, I worked in an affluent neighborhood, and I much preferred working in Minneapolis to working with that population. That's just kind of my personal thing. But yeah, like when I left Shakopee to go to Apple Valley, I got an $11,000 a year raise.
That's drastic.
Yeah. And then I also shed 1,000 students in one whole building, and, you know, because I have one school, and, you know, it's great. So it makes a difference, and it pays to look at when you're interviewing for jobs, or you're looking at jobs and postings, for sure, look at the teacher salary. They're all posted on their HR sites, or in the HR department website, on the district sites.
And then one other thing before I let you go, talk a little bit about a variance. You mentioned that earlier, and I'm familiar with it, but I'm not certain that all of our attendees are. If you would just.
Sure. Yep. So a variance is like a temporary license that allows you to do the job that you're not licensed in. So I had a teaching license, but I wasn't licensed in media. And so they allowed me to do the job, but you have a certain time frame to complete your schooling to get the license to keep your job. And it took me almost 7 years to finish my master's degree, because if you want your master's degree, do it before you get married and have kids. That's my biggest piece of advice to you, because I was working full time. I had 2 small kids and decided that would be a great time for me to do my master's degree. So yeah.
I am with you. I am so with you. I started in 2003, like my second year of teaching. I didn't realize I was pregnant when I started. Ended up on bed rest, so I lost a semester, had to redo that whole semester. Then I took off. After I had a kid, I couldn't really do a lot of like after school or like evening classes, especially driving from North Ranch or Hugo to St. Cloud. And so I only did summer classes. And so I thought, I'm just going to get the license. Just let me get through this. And 2 more kids later and 2 more bed rests. I mean, it took, I needed a variance at the end saying that I was on bed rest enough times that they gave me those years back so that I would still be able to finish the master's under the 70s. So yeah, I totally understand. Life interferes sometimes.
And Amy, what about the minimum qualifications or salary in White Bear?
So when I went from North Ranch to White Bear, I got a 22% increase in pay. I think that overall, I know it's ridiculous. Overall, the change in the, slightly rural to almost inner city, because they're considered, part of the St. Paul like zip code and everything like that. So it's first ring way out. Plus, up in North Ranch, we never had good contracts. We had 4 different freezes, and you're never going to get that back. So just the difference in the contract itself was probably 12%. And then with all the freezes through all the years of why ever they were doing that, and like the 4-day school weeks and all that crazy stuff we had to go through, that was the other kind of 10%. So it was a huge difference, and it's not why I changed. I changed because I live here, and I really wanted the opportunity to work in the same district my kids went to, and I wanted to be part of the community that I was living in the school system. I always was a little jealous of that from my friends that lived up in North Ranch and could have that. And yeah, so the pay was just kind of a bonus. And, they don't have to give you your years of service. I could have been started at year 7. I had just finished my 18th year teaching, and they could have started me at year 7. And so I was lucky that they started me at year 19. So that was a gift. So I don't know that they do that anymore, but that is definitely something that I was lucky.
I just wanted to add on to that. In all of the districts that I have been in, I've never been denied any of my years of service. So they've always started me, where I should be according to my total years of service, which is great because you put in that time, and you have all that experience. But yeah, I didn't mean to interrupt, but I just wanted to say because I've done it like 9 times. So
then
Okay, Linda, tell us about Eastern Carver County.
Sure. So I actually went the opposite way. So for those of you who aren't familiar with how teachers are paid, each district sets their own standards, and it's like a giant grid, a big table. And in my district, it's how many years have you been teaching and how much education do you have? So you take those and you figure it out. It seems that most districts are condensing that quite a lot and limiting what you can do. So instead of saying, well, I've been teaching for 6 years or 14 years, they'll say, well, I've been teaching, I'm a career +1. So I have been teaching for 10 through 15 years. I've been teaching for, at the maximum end. So, like Diane is saying, you get to a point where you've gotten all the education they're going to allow, you've gotten all the years of service, and so you're at the way end of the pay scale, and now you're just waiting for those pay increases to what we call the salary schedule. So knowing that even if you start in this position at really low, you have opportunities for yourself to make that money back, really, or to raise yourself on that pay scale just by going to school, by taking college courses. So there's a lot of people who will go and do that, and it does pay for itself very quickly. We have several people who will go and get their administrative degree mainly for that reason, because it will pay for itself depending on where you go, will pay for itself within 2 years. So something to keep in mind. For my own journey, I have been fortunate enough that I married someone who has a steady income. So I've been able to move more based on where either my life has taken me or my philosophy has taken me, where my family is. So I left rural Minnesota in a tiny area school with low pay to go to Minnetonka, which is an affluent district, so higher pay, higher benefits. Left there to come to Eastern Carver, and lost pay and lost benefits, but not as much as if I'd gone, gone farther out, or yeah, just even within the suburbs, there's a big variance of what you can get paid. So does that answer the question?
It absolutely does. Thank you. That was illuminating. And I feel like I know a lot about this, but I learned a lot in that conversation.
You talked
Okay.
about minimum,
Yeah.
Olivia, you talked about minimum requirements too, and it really does depend on the district. Like when I applied for my job, and this was 5 years ago, it was the posting. The house phone never rang. It was the posting, I swear to God, from 1985. I mean, it was the most out of date. It could have been an archaeological dig, for media postings. It was horrible. And so as soon as I got hired, I went to the HR director and said, you've got to update this, because we're going to have 3 or 4 retirements in the next couple of years, and this is not going to, you're not going to pull in anyone you want and the qualifications that you need if you don't just update this posting. And it was like a 2-year battle to get them to update the posting. And we finally got them to update the posting for the media specialist and the media clerk, so we can get good media clerks in too. And so that was a huge deal and a complete change in what the district thought the media specialist did.
Yeah, I would echo it's different. I think it all depends on the administration the administrator, who's posting. And for example, of our last 4 positions, because we are lucky in our district, we have 1 media specialist for every single building, except for one, it's a specialized program that's housed out of the district offices. But of our last 4, they have hired internal teachers and have them go on variances, because that pool that they were drawing from, they just weren't seeing what they were hoping to see. Kind of what Amy and we alluded to earlier. They weren't looking for someone who can catalog. We need someone who can innovate and collaborate and participate. So it was more of a personality, someone who knows about makerspace, someone who knows about technology. So yes, there's minimum requirements. You're going to have a teaching license of some kind, whether that's a 4-year like I got. Some people get their media license, and then along with that degree, we'll get a teaching license. I think, I know one of our librarians got the media license first and then just did evening classes and then a little bit of student teaching. I don't think it took her more than 2 years to do that. So some people will get that, but it depends on what the job posting and the district decides. It's not mandated by the state, what you have to have in your buildings, but the districts will say, this is what this job requires these licenses or these qualifications.
We had to stop one of the middle school principals from actually posting a position that said that the media license was optional, because he was okay with a reading specialist do that job too, because he really wanted to start focusing it into interventions and have that person do more interventions. He just basically wanted that FTE, and he didn't care about the library at all. And just so happened that he hired someone who was amazing and happened to have a reading license, so it was kind of got us in there anyway. And then he left, and so when the new person came in, she said, there is no way that I'm going to do reading intervention. And she said, why would you do reading intervention? You're a media specialist. So it worked out in the end, but he literally got to post it because that's what the administrator wanted, as an optional license.
Wow. I guess it's a little surprising that there's so much variance between districts and it's not more mandated at the state level.
Not even just between
Especially with the
districts,
research
like
that
between buildings.
supports the license makes the difference.
Right.
It makes, because again, our jobs are so different that nobody really understands to the full extent how much and what we do, the breadth of what we do. And it's kind of assumed, well, the books will just happen. But advocacy, advocacy, advocacy. I can't say it enough.
All right.
Well, I have to say too that if the principals can all be different within a district as well, that tells you something too. Like that just shouldn't happen. That there should be one like mode of there should be one mission, one vision for your whole district and their media program, and having it be different by building is just crazy.
Ann and I have literally been toting that slogan around for years, Amy, saying it should be absolutely, the whole district should have the exact same media focus and not be by building or by person, depending on who the person is.
Lynn asked a question. I think it was Lynn asked a question about the position that I was talking about. It was actually the one before that. It was Carol. Oh boy, it's only been 2 years. How do I not? Anyway, Carol's position at Central Middle School that that principal posted and was gonna hire someone without a media specialist license. But we got somebody good for both those jobs, and we got somebody good for the high school when that one opened up. So
great. We do have a couple questions in the Q&A. So the first one is, can any of you speak to differences between library media specialist jobs at public versus private schools? Do any of you have any experience in that? Or know anyone? Heard any stories?
Very,
No?
very little. I would guess, however, that it's very similar from what I know in the couple of times that back in the early days when I subbed a couple times at Breck, it's just like in the public that every building is different and it all depends on what your building and your administrator at the time has required of you, their understanding, and then the advocacy that you've done to build that job. For example, in Bloomington, we have a good friend of mine just moved over from Bloomington to Eastern Carver, and she was very regimented about what the media specialists were supposed to do, and they reported directly to, they had a hierarchy, where in Eastern Carver, it's not that regimented. It's far more building directed, media specialist directed, that we're going out ahead of the game saying, hey, we see this as an issue, we're gonna let you know. Yeah. So my guess is the privates will be similar to that, but I don't know that for sure.
Okay. We do. Amy, did you want to say something? No?
I do.
But my daughter's yelling at my dog right now, so I'm not sure.
Oh, we can wait. Ann wants to say something. Go ahead, Ann.
I think with the private schools, it does tend to be much more independent and in some ways more isolating. Because you may be the only person who speaks your language in a private school. Breck is probably an exception. Minnehaha Academy is an exception because they have media specialists at their various sites. I think the other thing that could be more what Amy was talking about is they may not require a license. So there has been a school that will remain nameless who has advertised over and over on the Metronet job board for a media specialist. And finally they called me and said, what do you think about this? And I said, I think you've got the wrong end of the stick here on how this advertisement is being presented. And they were receptive to that. So we talked through that and whatever, but because they were by themselves, not in a bigger system, they didn't have any point of referral or any point of reference. So I think, whether you're in White Bear or 196 or Eastern Carver County, there are other people you can talk to, even if you have to make the bigger effort. I think that's one of the big things. Now, the independent schools, the Minnehaha's, the Blake, Breck, Mounds Park, they do have their own media specialist group, independent schools media specialist group. So they have that level of connection. But from a day-to-day standpoint, I think, especially in a lot of charter schools, one, there's either no media specialist, or they may not have the right license or a license. So it's a big difference. And, you know, if you're thinking you might want to work in a private school or a charter school, I think there are a lot of questions to ask in an interview for the media specialist.
Isn't there a Catholic, like the Catholic diocese?
Yes, I think they have their own group too.
Yeah, because I remember my friend Ann worked for Holy Angels, and they had a group.
Yeah,
Well,
at
and
least they
many of
used
them
to.
were. That's true. They might not anymore. Many of them were licensed media specialists, and I think if they weren't, they were at least trained as a librarian.
Right. One of our former board members was one of the school reps on our board was the librarian at Highland Catholic, and she was very active, but that's been 8 or 9 years ago since she was the board rep. I will say another one of our school board reps changed districts from a first ring suburb district to St. Paul and doubled her salary as a media specialist. So that goes back to the previous question about how much do you get paid? So. And
from the chat, Lynn wants you to know that she currently is a media specialist at a charter school, and they do not require a license for her position. So
then they're lucky they have her, because we know she has a library degree.
We have a couple more Q&A chats. And I'm actually going to go slightly out of order here because we were just talking about, Anne mentioned how isolating it can be being the only person at a private school. And the question from Stacy is your job fairly isolating, and how do you build a network? So anyone who wants to jump in and tackle that.
I would love to start that one because I feel like that's a big one. So like I just said, we just hired a bunch of people in White Bear, and it was because of retirements, but I knew that when I was looking and working on posting these jobs and getting the applicants and doing the interviews, that I was going to be creating my team. And it wasn't just me, it was the administrator creating, grabbing someone for their school to work with their team too. But I knew that, as an island, the people you depend on the most are the people that are in your media department. And I had an amazing media department in White Bear, and we were just a phenomenal team. And so I wanted to rebuild that. And I think the team that we have right now is unbelievably good, and worked really hard to get it there. And I feel like having that mission, that philosophy, and that idea that I'm going into this to build a team so that I have someone I can call. I have a team that I can count on. One of our media specialists' son is going down to Mayo for a heart surgery, and we have her back. We are covering what needs to be covered. We're taking care of what needs to be taken care of. She has to hire some clerks while they're gone because the clerks keep retiring with COVID and having to do childcare. They're like, see you, bye. So we have to do these things, and we do it as a department. And I don't know if I'd survive if I didn't at least get to talk to one of those guys, every day or two. Because you absolutely have to build yourself a team. And if you don't have one in your district, you have to network and find people around you that you can work on.
Social media is a good way to do that, to build your PLN if you're not, if you're kind of on your own.
PLN.
Professional Learning Network, I think is what it stands for. Okay, I know I use these jargon things.
There's a lot of acronyms in what you guys do, so I just want to make sure everyone knows what we're talking about.
Thank you. So in Apple Valley, we have a media specialist at almost every one of our schools. In the elementary media specialists, during COVID now on Wednesdays, we meet every Wednesday for an hour over Zoom. And so we do our professional learning goals that we have to set as part of, I'm going to give you, I don't want to give you another acronym because I can't remember what it is even. But in order to get some money for, like you set a goal, and if your students achieve that goal, then you get a little bit of money. And I can't remember what it's called. because I've been in, I don't know how many districts, and we don't, not all of them have it. But anyway, so we do that together. There's one of us that's kind of the destiny guru, and whenever we have questions, we just go to that person. And, you know, someone else does, you know, kind of deals with the Mod Heart, Star of the North stuff. And so it's nice to have that. But if you don't, there are ways, like when I was in Minneapolis, there were very few of us eventually. When I first started there, the program in Minneapolis was actually quite good. But, you know, I have found on Twitter, I cannot tell you, like, I ditched my personal Twitter because I just couldn't deal with the toxic everything anymore. And I use that time now to use my professional Twitter. And I found professional development. I was able to go to an Indiana Connected Educators Conference that was virtual that I never would have been able to go to had COVID not happened. And I learned a ton of stuff, and I've connected with authors on there. So you can use social media for good. I just don't talk politics on it at all. It's only for my work stuff. But it can be really lonely. And so even that person, if you connect with someone and they live 8 states away, you know, you can still connect and collaborate, you know, over technology.
So agreed. Yes, yes, yes. For the professional side of things, I would also, when it's library specific, I would strongly encourage conferences. And for example, here in the Midwest, the ITEM conference, you're going to go and you're going to talk to people that are sitting right next to you, and you're going to share experiences. You're going to overhear good ideas. You're going to hear from presenters, of course, but you're building your PLN or your PLC, depending, personal learning community, whatever you want to call it. I would strongly encourage. Before we started today, we were talking about, you know, the conference last week and how in distance we're missing what we go to conferences for. One of the biggest reasons we go to conferences is not necessarily for the sessions. It's for the, hey, I heard this. What do you think about it? Hi, my name is, where do you teach? Hey, let's do a connection with our kids so that we can you know, get them connected on different parts of the state on whatever topic. So there's the professional side of that, of the librarian. I would also, and I know we all do it, consider not just the librarian position, media specialist position as your network, as your groups. If you're going to be the only media specialist in a building, as much as I probably emailed my fellows, I would guess 20 times just today. We had a meeting today. Wednesdays is our half a day work, but we're constantly emailing back and forth, sharing things back and forth. But if that was all I had, I would be very lonely. So I'm definitely making connections within my building. Whenever I can, it's not just for my job. Of course, I'm doing it because I need to build teacher collaboration experiences, because they aren't necessarily going to come to you. You've got to go find them. Hey, how can I help you with this Moon Phases project? We could incorporate Makerspace, and look how cool this could be. I'll be right there with you. And so I'm connecting with science. I'm connecting with social studies. I'm connecting with LA. If you can find a way to connect with math, you got to tell me how to do it.
I got you on that.
I've done it a couple times, but oof. They're a whole separate wing of our building, so it's harder. But for me, I find, you know, where do all of my media standards fit into their, you know, core curriculum or encore curriculum standards? And I'm finding my friends there, my network there, my peers in the building. So definitely consider more than just the librarian piece. That's essential to have someone that you can bounce off of for just the library piece of things. But someone in the building who's going to say hi in the morning, who's going to, hey, come sit with me at lunch, and all of that.
Yeah, we always say make friends at the lunch table. So I'm not a big one to go sit at lunch, because that's usually when I get a chance to just, you know, do my own thing and step away for a minute. But My whole first year I went, and then every time I have a student teacher, we go the whole time, every single day to lunchroom. And that's how I got the math teachers to start coming in when I got the new furniture that had these little whiteboards that hung off of each table. And all these rolling whiteboards. I told the math teachers, you got to come in. You can do all this collaborative stuff. You can play games. You can use these whiteboards. And they came in, and it's the first time I'd ever had like a whole math department. And now they come the test prep day. They come at the end of every unit, and they started doing a thing called Math Mondays after school in the library, where they basically took over the media center after schools on Mondays. Kids could do retesting, they could do makeup work, they could have one-on-one with different teachers, and they made sure they had one teacher of each type of math there every single time, like with the sign-up sheet. And so they rotated, and it was phenomenal. But it got those math teachers in.
Yeah, I probably should have, saying it a little tongue in cheek. Don't you love those verb whiteboards? That's what it sounds like you've got. Oh my gosh. Well, because I've redone a couple media centers too. It's been the thing to do in the last 10 years. We've all done presentations and taught other teachers how. You call yourself the sandbox. The administrator invest a little bit here and let all the teachers try it, because we're a common space. It's a great way, again, to collaborate. But yes, those verb whiteboards, math teachers love those.
Right, I had a math teacher that actually said, I'd teach different every day if I had this furniture. And I was like, come on.
And that was the point. That was why the administrator invested in the Learning Center, so that everybody else could try it without a ginormous investment that might go down the tubes. Yep. Sorry, off topic.
No, it's fine.
Gotcha.
Stacy also just mentioned in the chat the Bedtime Math Crazy Eights Club, which are math and reading activities, and she linked to it in the chat as well. So for further information. And we have another question in the Q&A. Shannon has been waiting patiently for us to get to her question, which is, do school districts offer reimbursement for their teachers to pursue a media specialist or library science education? I'm seeing a lot of head shaking going on right now.
No, but remember how teachers are paid. So no, they are not going to pay for it up front. I guarantee you they won't. It will not happen. Schools do not have that kind of money. However, when you're going on the pay scale, those library classes that you're taking, when you will move you up in lanes. So you won't get it up front, but it will accrue over time. And it just depends on your district, how long that will take, how much you're given for that type of movement.
You're saying it's a direct payment correlation. You pay to take the class, and then you get paid more money at your job. So you're making that money back. That's what you're saying there?
Yes. So for example, when I went for mine, at the time, the way our pay schedule was broken out, for every 15 credits that I took at a college level, it looks like every 15, then I would submit those credits, and it may take, 3 months. But then once those were approved by the district, then my pay changed based on when I think when I submitted it. Pretty sure.
It depends on your district. Ours has cutoff days. You have to submit by February, you get the raise in, March. You have to submit by June, you get the raise, and it's quarterly or 3 times a year.
Mm-hmm.
But Linda said it perfectly before, and again now, like, you put the investment in, so you pay ahead of time, the $300 a graduate credit course or whatever, or just for a credit, and then you might pay in that $1,200 that 1 year, but then you might get a $1,200 raise. And then you get that raise, you get that money every year for the rest of your career. So if you think about it like going on a diagonal, not only did you get years of service, but you also, across that chart, you're going on this diagonal. You're also adding your schooling every year, and so you're getting year of service and 15 credits, year of service. Now, it's difficult to do 15 credits every year, but I know some people that did their master's plus 60 in their first couple of years of teaching before they had kids, and they were really smart. I did not do that.
Another thing is, as far as salary, I'm not close to retiring yet, but I've been looking into it because I'm getting closer, and they take your 3 highest to figure out like what your retirement payout is going to be. They take your 3 highest salaried years. So again, if you are looking at, yes, that's a lot of money to shell out, I get it, but you're getting it, as you said, a rate, you get that money every year, plus that's also going to inch you toward higher retirement too, payout.
Wow, that's really good to know.
And then if you, when you retire, you have your TRA and your 401k if you, or 403b if you're smart, and your financial guy tells your husband that I'm his sugar mama. What? Because I have
what my financial guy
accounts.
said. My financial guy looked at my husband and said, wow, you're really footing the bill on this one. I hope she's worth it.
Oh, that's funny. No, mine said it might cost you a lot right now, but in retirement, she's going to make twice as much as you do because of the two different, the TRA and the 403b. But oh my gosh, that's
Okay, I'm not seeing any more chat questions at the moment, so let's advance through our panel questions. So let's go with what's a typical day like for you, or atypical if you don't have one. Really what I'm after here is, what do you do? Like, what is the daily life for you guys? So let's go with Diane.
pre-COVID or
Oh,
COVID?
good question, Amy. You know, I think you kind of dealer's choice, whatever you think is the best, however you want to describe this to us. If you want to talk about the pandemic, go for it.
I'm going to choose not to talk about the pandemic because I'm really sick of it. But, and plus I tell kids like 30 times a day, if I can see your nose, you're not wearing your mask right. And then I've also told the older students, if you like being at school, because we're in a hybrid model, if you like being at school, wear your mask and stay 6 feet away. Otherwise, we're all going to have to go home again. But anyway, so a typical day for me, I'm in a prep schedule. So that means when the classroom teacher gets his or her prep, their class comes to me, and we have 50-minute classes, except for kindergarten is 25. But during COVID, it's a full 50, which is fun at the beginning of the year with kindergarten. But it's, you know, we have to have the kids, or half the kids right now. But anyway, so I always read to them, always. Doesn't matter when I taught middle school, I read to them every time they came into me. So I always tell them, you're never too old to be read to, and you're never too old for picture books. And so I will, you know, sometimes it's tied into what we're doing. Sometimes I'm reading, like right now for 3rd grade, I'm reading Tales of a 4th Grade Nothing, because that's just an amazing book. And then the best part is when they, like in pre-COVID, we would do makerspace after we would do our lesson, and then we do checkout. And they would beg me to keep reading. Like, no, I don't want to go to the Lego wall. I want you to keep reading. And that's the best as a librarian, or a teacher, period. So they would come in, we do read aloud, I do a lesson of some sort, and then they do book checkout. And when they do book checkout, I'm walking around providing reader's advisory and helping them find books, because, you know, there'll be a kid standing in front of the shelf like, I can't find the Harry Potter books. They're the biggest books we have. I don't know how you can't find them when you're standing right in front of them, but they're right here. So that's kind of my thing. And I tie my lessons into, I do digital citizenship. And then we also do a lot with units of study. So I support what the classroom teachers are doing. And then I also last year implemented makerspace stations, which we can't do during COVID. So all my stuff's just sitting there because I cannot sanitize 1,000 Legos in between classes.
So Diane, they're always coming to you in the media center, right? You're not going into the classrooms.
No, nope, they come to the library. They come in, I see them, well, it would be either once every 4 or once every 5 cycle days, depending on if it was primary or intermediate. And so, yeah, I get to see every kid, and that is the best. When I was in Minneapolis, I had them from kindergarten to 5th grade. And, you know, sometimes it takes you a while to learn all their names. But that relationship of knowing them from when they were a little kid to when they're ready to move on to middle school is priceless. And I tell everybody I have the best job in the world.
All right. Amy, tell us what you do.
So in non-COVID years, I open up the library to a huge group of kids who have been sitting there waiting for a half hour because their parents drop them off at an ungodly time in the morning. And I usually have 40 to 70 kids in the library in the morning before school starts, depending on when they get dropped off in their buses and if they have clubs that morning or not. I usually run 1 or 2 clubs every day during flex time, which is our bear time. I teach classes and team teach with the teachers, mostly language arts, but also science and social studies and math, and some specialist classes depending on what's going on in their unit at that time. I very rarely, I'm gonna knock on wood here because it hasn't happened yet this year, but I'm sure it will. I very rarely sub. They really value me being in the library. And so if I do sub, I bring that class into the library. And so I have this great excuse of, oh, I'm sorry, the library isn't open. It's completely full, so I can't sub. I can't bring the class in. And my library has 3 spaces that teachers can check out. And during normal years, 2 to 3 are checked out every single hour, every single day. One of the things that we have that we love is we have those teachers that are coming in with their classes, but we also have 20 to 30 kids on passes every hour that come in for a quiet place to work, a collaborative place to work on the makerspace, any of that kind of stuff. And I absolutely love that as well. And I guess I'm trying to think if there's anything else that I do on the regular. Yeah, I think that's probably it. Oh, you know, all the administrative stuff too. You got to do all the administrative stuff too. You got to, order things and supplies, and you got to change your displays, and you have to, do, set up your schedules and, talk to teachers and go to all their department meetings. And I do the PD in our district too. So I, go to those meetings and collaborate with my media people. But for the most part, that's pretty much what we do.
Yeah, I would ditto a lot of what Amy just said, because just like her, I'm on a flex schedule. I don't have scheduled classes. That we've got kids coming in every hour all the time, kids who are there at lunch, kids who are there before school. We have an after school Achieve program that they use our space as well. So it's always happened. As far as team teaching, it really goes on the site in cycles. I'm hit really, really hard in the very beginning by LA to make sure every single book or every single kid has at least 1 book immediately. So you're doing tons of circulation right away, and then you take a breath while everybody's settling into their classes, and then you ramp back up. And right now I'm looking at starting some research, what kind of research things can we do, and collaboration. So a lot of those same things. My makerspace isn't like Diane said, she has kits. Mine is a makerspace that they would normally flex into. So they'd have that choice if they were available during any of their classes. They can flex in with their teacher's permission, in and out there. Again, I'm talking pre-COVID. That's a whole, if you guys want to know about how COVID has changed things, that's a end of this discussion, because it's a whole new world. Other things, I'm trying to see, I pulled up my to-do list right now, and you're constantly being, I say interrupted, but that has negative connotations. You just expect that there's just constantly things that people are asking for, that people need help with, that are coming up, that you're thinking of, trying to think ahead, that you're adding on. So one of my to-dos is, to pull together election resources. What can I do to help my civics teacher right now, so that she'll have some new things that she can post. I'm doing media standards alignment, with the new item standards that came out not too long ago, along with, we have many masters for our standards, of course, are the learning targets that we are required to teach. We want to make sure we cover. And since, like Diane, I don't have a class I can deliver that to directly, I have to do that through teacher collaboration. So I take my standards and say, okay, what teacher can I go, and it's going to fit their standards so we can do it together. I'm looking at, I just looked at the eBooks Minnesota and downloaded some MARC records for eBooks there, because I can incorporate that into my catalog. So I'm contacting other, like Linda Mork at Minitex and such. Looking at fundraising, how, whether that be a building fundraiser, just for media, or I'm advocating for budget money within the building or within the district, going to our equity and integrations, what's this, equity and integration, not an assistant superintendent, but director, probably at that level. Going to our building principal, going to teaching and learning curriculum directors, saying, hey, what can we do to work to improve this? For me, I don't know what everyone else has, but our media budget has not increased in over 20 years. In fact, it's actually decreased significantly in the last couple of years. We had a failed referendum. That's something that's always really bad, but to even make administration aware, so that kind of advocacy as well, saying, hey, 20 years has gone by, books are more expensive, this is how much more expensive, this is what I need, this is ebooks, I'm researching ebooks and audiobooks. I did a whole email with a parent the other day whose son was recently diagnosed with dyslexia. What kind of things can we do from a media perspective to help with that? Working with special ed, saying how can we partner together to do those kinds of things? Yeah, it's different every day. And I love that. I can be very self-directed. You have to be kind of find a way to organize yourself so that you don't lose things in the shuffle. Because so, at least for me, my style, I have so much coming at me all the time that I really have to make sure I'm prioritizing and not forgetting things.
I always say that my ADHD is a superpower as a media specialist, because you can get interrupted and go right back, and you can go over here and you can super focus on something and just ignore everything around you, but then go and do this and be distracted, and it works great.
Fabulous. We had a question from Ann Walker Smalley, who wants to know, do any of you have a district media liaison? No from Linda, no from Amy. Diane?
So can you I mean, I'm not sure what.
Someone who works at the district level who's maybe coordinating all of the media programs throughout the district.
Oh, no, we have someone at Teaching and Learning who gets our emails and who will come to our meetings sometimes, but it's not like there's a head of district or a district media position.
Okay. There should be. There absolutely should be in every single district, but yeah, there seem to be increasingly rare that we found. Okay. This next question is always fun. So what is the best and the worst thing about your job? Both sides of the coin is what we're looking for here. Diane.
That made me laugh. So the best part of my job is when I have a kid say, do I have to check out a library book? First of all, kid, you're talking to a librarian here. Why are you even asking me that question in that way? And they say it just like that. It's taking that kid and saying, you know what, the reason you're saying that is because you haven't found the right book. Like, you haven't found a book that makes you excited. So my job is to find that book for all of those kids, because the kids who love reading, they'll find books. You know, they're immersed in that already. It's those kids are like, yeah, no, I'm not going to read that book. I'm going to check it out and take it home, and it's going to sit on my desk for a week because you made me check it out. But when I get those kids come back to me and say, do you have another book like this? You know, that's what fills my bucket. The worst part is shelving. I hate shelving. I will just say it. Okay. I hate it. I don't mind like the picture books and the fiction. Now my fiction section is genreified, so that's a little different. But nonfiction, no. I mean, who likes it? I can't say. If there's a librarian that likes it, I would like to meet them, because I hate it. And I had to do it myself. When I was in Minneapolis, it was me, myself, and I working in the library. I have a clerk in Apple Valley, and he's amazing, although he doesn't really like shelving either. But it's his job too, so he kind of has to. But, you know, yeah, shelving. I hate it. I'm just going to say it. I hate it.
Works for me. Amy?
I think the only time I like shelving is when I'm at a new library and I need to get to know the collection. I felt like I could see what was coming in and out a little bit better. And if I let the clerk do it all the time, I would have a really hard time then when I'd go to weed, because I'd be like, I don't know, did anybody check this out? You know, and then you're just printing reports and you're not seeing what kids are going for and choosing and what authors that you need to promote more because you know they're good stories. And so I guess that's the only time I like shelving, but I probably like it because I can go, I'll do that, and voluntarily, you know, just get out of my seat every once in a while and, you know, walk around and shelve some books. But if I had to do at an elementary level with how many books you have coming in and out all the time, yeah, I probably would like to do it. I'd have to say the thing I like the least is, no, I'm going to do best. The thing I like best is connections with kids. Like you said, finding that perfect book for a kid, getting them started on their way to becoming a lifelong reader when they thought they hated reading. Finding, like saying, what video games do you like? What movies do you like? What do you watch on Netflix? And finding something that will be in their interest, that they go, this is a book I can read about? Like, what? You have car mechanics book? I can read about that? Like that light bulb that goes off, that ignition that starts, that's my favorite part for sure. And even with teachers, like teachers will come to me and say, I have a student who won't do this and doesn't like that. And then I give the teacher like 3 kind of quick book talks and say, why don't you ask them about these books if they can't come in the library, especially right now? And they're like, we love talking to you about books. I feel like I'm at a movie trailer, you know, like, so that kind of thing is probably my favorite part. And just hanging out with the kids and having that kind of stuff. My least favorite part is dealing with the drama of like skippers in the library and people who are cutting class in the library, and I found a bag of pot in the library. Like that kind of stuff. Like I don't ever want to deal with, I don't want to be the warden of the library. Like that's not my goal. I want to be the one who's allowing everyone to come, and here are the rules and you follow them and you get to use this space as often as you want and just enjoy it and build this community of learners together. And but when I have to start kicking kids out because they're disrespecting or you know, that kind of stuff, I just
That makes sense. The warden of the library. I like that. Linda.
Oh, obviously Reader's Advisory, when you just get so excited that you're talking over each other, you and the kids. But I would say even more than the Reader's Advisory piece, when the kids go like that, are when a student has found their power. They've found their voice, they found their power. And it's a beautiful thing that we as media specialists get to see these kids over time, over many years, where the classroom teachers don't always get to see that. And so a prime example would be my Zach. So Zach came in as a 6th grader, the quintessential will not talk nerd. You know, he read tons and tons, but he, you know, didn't see himself in any powerful way. He was super techie, but, you know, didn't really have an outlet for it. And so having him help start up a 3D printing club, then by year 2, he's training other kids. By year 3, he goes with a team of kids from my school and he leads a presentation for ITEM. I mean, the transformation, watching that, oh my gosh. I mean, that's pinnacle. That's one of the examples of lifelong story. The girl who has 0 friends, she's got autism, slight, so she's really socially awkward. Finding last year a D&D group and a manga club that now all of a sudden her family, who has never understood her, she's also considers herself asexual. So all these things that her family could not understand and couldn't relate to and didn't know how to help her with, through these groups, both through the Learning Center and through the building. So watching her blossom and thrive and now be very outgoing and in her own way, in her own circle. And, you know, the parents going, oh my gosh, we didn't think this would ever happen for her. And now look at her go. We have so many fewer worries. It doesn't happen for everybody. I don't get to see that for everybody. But when it does, oh my gosh, cream cherry. What do I not like? in normal times. I don't like that when we don't have support. That is the hardest part of my job, that I have to convince the public, for example, a neighbor, a friend, that there really is a teacher shortage, and it's not, that there's reasons for it, because this job has gotten unrealistic. It's gotten very, very hard, and we do more than just sit around. That, oh, well, it's not that hard. If you think it's that hard, maybe you should make room for a younger crowd. That's not it. I see young people coming in and leaving the profession very quickly in some cases. So that is really, really tough. I'd say that's my least favorite part. My least favorite part, more in the building, is COVID related. I do not get to be with kids, and this sucks. Just, it does. My normal job is not happening. I'm doing tons of philosophical, tons of big picture work, which is great, but it's not what gets me through the day. It's not what gets me out of bed to be there in the morning. It's those conversations first thing when the doors open, and I don't get to have those right now.
Okay. I want to check in with you all really quickly. It's a few minutes before 6 o'clock. Did any of you have to leave right at the stroke of 6? No? Because I know I told you all 4 to 6, and then with the miscommunication on the start time, I just want to make sure I have more questions, and we can definitely keep going. I just thought I want to be very respectful of your time. If you have an appointment, or someone's waiting on you to eat dinner in the other room at 6 o'clock, I wanted to know that. Okay. Anne wanted to know, do you all have clerks or aides in your libraries?
I'm so spoiled. Go ahead, Linda, go ahead.
I used to have a full-time, gone down to part-time. Now I have her 3 hours a day. With the referendum next year, I will no longer have a clerk. It will be no pair at all, only me. And that is devastating. I will be highly overpaid to do what to shelve. Right now, I do not shelve. I do not repair books. I don't put labels on things. That is clerical. And I don't do clerical work. Next year, I'll have to.
Amy?
I was just saying that I'm very spoiled. I inherited a space that had a AV clerk. Yes, that still exists. She deals mostly with the student Chromebooks, but that's her. She's like a high-level secretary. She does all my bill paying. I just have to put my orders in on my account, and then she goes in and she puts the PO in. She creates the PO. She does all that stuff. She keeps all my budgets. I could order something on Amazon every day, and she'd be like, "Doo-doo-doo, just paying your bills, Amy." And yeah, really lucky. She processes all the books that come in. I have and she's full time, 7 to 3:30, all the time, full time. And then I have the copy lady in the building. For some reason, wanted more hours, and the principal was like, "Sure, you can go work in the library for a few hours a day." So she shelves all the books. She does a ton of checkout with the kids when I'm working with other teachers or other kids, or I'm out on the floor. She'll man the desk, and she does a ton of stuff. She will not be bored. So if she only has 2 hours of copying to do that day, even though she's supposed to be in there 3 or 4 hours, she will just start that machine going and come over to the library and say, "What can we do next? What can we do next?" I mean, she just cleaned my office. She's just looking for something to do. Now, granted, this wasn't my stuff in the office. I inherited it from the lady before, and she gathered it for 37 years. So it was more of a de-hoarding situation. And so, but I mean, just amazing. Plus, we have a tech person. So it's then she takes care of all the tech stuff besides. So I know I am blessed. I am 100% blessed, and I'm very lucky. So hopefully we get to keep all these people with the cup.
We will hope for you. Diane, I know you mentioned a clerk.
Yep. So I have a clerk. He works 6 hours a day. That's pre-COVID, because he's only doing about 3 hours in the library now, because he does 3 hours of childcare also. Because we're obviously at buildings, we're doing childcare when you are working with elementary kids. When I was in Minneapolis, like I said, it was me. So I would be checking out books with 30 kindergartners, because I had that's how big my class sizes were. At the beginning of the year, trying to do book checkout with 30 kindergartners, you got to be able to stand on your head, basically. So, and I had some volunteers then, and that was nice. But I had to do most of my own shelving, and I really did hate that. Covered my own books, repaired my own books. I know how to do all of it, but I don't have to take care of that right now, and it's nice.
And volunteers was something I was going to ask next too. So I was going to say, Linda, can we get you some volunteers next year when you don't have a clerk anymore?
Well, there is the question. Again, COVID. Schools
Right.
are allowing extra in right now. And at elementary, I always had a plethora of volunteers who were willing to come in and even just shelf. They were happy to do that. In middle and high school, it gets very lean and very spotty. I was lucky. My first 3 years that I was in this position, there was a mom who came in whenever I asked her to. So it was probably every 2 weeks, once a month, every 2 weeks, she'd come in because I still had a full-time para at that point. And that was phenomenal, but that was a unicorn. To get anyone to come in more than once, if even once, by the time I have them trained on even just how to shelve, because we have genreification for our fiction section and Dewey for our nonfiction, because we straddle the two systems. Elementary does 100% genreification, high school does only Dewey, so we straddle. By the time you train someone, it's not worth your time. So volunteers is tough. But if you have a line on somebody, I will take it. Yes. One nice thing that I will say, there is a tiny little silver lining about COVID because of the advocacy that I've done and the people before me have done. I have followed some giants in this position. My principal understands the need that we need more than we have. And so this year we have full-time subs that are not always used. So I am their first stop. If they have nothing else to do, I am their first stop, and they do all kinds of things for me. And they've been wonderful women, these two ladies that we've hired that have been willing to schlep books and cover. I taught one how to cover, book repair, shelving, all kinds of stuff. But yeah.
I think one of the other things about volunteers when you get to middle school and high school is that level of parent involvement in their schooling is highly discouraged by the student. They don't want to see their mother or father at their school doing anything. I volunteered at my daughter's high school library because I am a librarian. I could help with cataloging, stay in the back room and act like you don't know me, So while parents are busy and whatever, I also think there is not only, unless it's athletic boosters and they're selling hot dogs at the football game, their student is not encouraged. This different attitude than when they're in kindergarten and they're delighted their parent is there to listen to their friends read.
I can get parents to volunteer on for a special event, but not anything regular. Like we did a mock voting thing the last couple of years, and so we call it North Votes, and the kids come through and they do the exact procedure of voting to teach these 9th and 10th graders about the procedure of voting, not about, like the civic duty and all that kind of stuff will come when they take government class, and they'll learn more about politics and parties and things like that. But what we found, and we heard an NPR report about it, is that people are, in the past, this year's end all, but in the past, people have been most anxious about voting just because they don't know what to do when they get there. And so we thought, well, we can solve that problem. For 9th and 10th grade, they'll learn what to do. And we set up the library, like the media center, like it's a polling place. And we do and I'm an election judge in my county, so I kind of had the inside scoop on how that works. And so we set it up and they do almost the exact procedure, and they all vote, and then they put it in the pretend tabulator, which is just a copy box. And they all get an I voted sticker. But we had a ton of parents that were willing to volunteer for that, and that was wonderful. We've had an escape room in the library that the kids have created, and we've had tons of parents that would come and volunteer and help with that too. So when it's a special event, I feel like they're all in, but I don't feel like I could get parents that would come on a weekly or even twice a month or once a month basis.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And even beyond parents, I can get volunteers. Like I have an amazing retired teacher who will come in and help with History Day research every year. And she is so dedicated. She's amazing. We can get volunteers that are paid through the History Center to get some of that. I've connected with the public libraries, and now we get the public librarians at the beginning of a big research, both Project Citizen and History Day. They'll come in for as much time as they can give me. It's usually 2 half days. Where it's 2 librarians that will team together and try to get all these kids through, and that's phenomenal. So there's other places to tap for events like that. Yeah, Amy, I'm hearing you about the election. We do, not quite to your level, but we used to do a mock election, and no way, even without COVID, we wouldn't be touching that with that 10-foot pole this year.
Guess what we decided to do? We decided that because we couldn't do anything that the distance learners couldn't do equally, that we would just have everyone practice the idea of requesting a mail-in ballot. So every single kid in our whole school is going to get an application. It's an application. They have to fill out the application. If they do that, then they get a ballot. And then they can, the election judges, me and my clerk, will walk around and pick up all the ballots that have been sealed appropriately with all the envelopes and stickers and everything. And they'll learn the procedure of how to do a mail-in or an absentee ballot. So.
See, and this is why you have a PLN. You get brilliant ideas like Amy's going, oh, yes, I want to do that.
I'm glad you said that, Linda, because I was just about to say, wow, that is an amazing idea. I love that. Okay. And I will just say, you know, COVID, I don't know how it's going to look, you know, for the next school year and whatever, but there are a lot of retired librarians out there who I feel like could be put to good use helping in schools. So maybe we'll see what we can do to help you out down the road.
I just had one of the participants mentioned Beth Mooster, who was the retired media specialist at our middle school. I had her sub for me on Monday for the first time kids were coming into the library. I needed somebody there. They don't always give me a sub, but I needed somebody there. She just retired. She said she'd come in and do it for me. She created the most awesome voting display while she was there. I just left on a post-it note. Could you collect some books and do a display on voting out in the hallway? It says elect to read. She did a star-spangled banner of paper, and I mean, and I thought, I'm just gonna have to call in sick every month, and then she can do my display.
I want a picture. I'll
send your picture.
Okay. So I feel like we've covered a lot of the questions, like in answers to other ones. Like I know we've talked about professional organizations, item, and things like that. So let's talk about what do you see as the future? I know we talked about this a little bit earlier, but I think this is a really important, especially for media specialists. So what do you see as the future for media specialists in the library world? We talked a little bit about job security earlier, but how do you see it going? Is there writing on the wall that has you guys particularly worried? Are we in a good area for this right now? What are you hearing on the streets? Go ahead, Linda.
Without being too doom and gloom, I think it's a precarious time that requires. Have I said the word? Maybe I've said. I don't think I've said advocacy. I think it's a precarious time. There's a lot of over the last, I don't know, ladies, what would you say, 5 to 10 years? The idea of changing a school media specialist into a technology integrationist has been a big push. And in my experience, it's admin who are either very, very tech savvy and they want more tech in their school, who are doing that don't realize their media specialists can do that for them, that they're wanting to switch over. Or it's someone who doesn't know tech very well, but they're hearing that from other people. hearing it from other districts that are streamlining, like, well, we just have one that oversees 3 schools, and then that way we can afford something else. And that's coming to some of the bigger districts, which is very concerning to me. One of our administrators, our brand new middle school administrator at another building, came from a big district that that media specialist is saying she knows they're being phased out, so that they can be paid for other things. The bright side of that, we are very, very versatile. We are the jack of all trades. We do tons of things. And I don't really care what you call me, as long as you let me do what we need to do. And because I have yet to meet an administrator who will admit that the library isn't super important in a school. They all will say, no, the learning center, the media center, the hub it's the hub of the school. It's explaining and giving them a list. I've had to do that where I kept track. Okay, these are all the different things that happen. And if you cut my para, this is what will go. Oh, well, can't we do that? How? This is what we do. And that's how that the administrator I have now totally gets that. And so that's how I'm getting these extra pieces. Last year, she paid for an extra hour a day of para time out of a different fund, just so I could stay at 4 hours a day. You know, she's advocating for me at a district level. She might be one of the only ones, but because of that, saying, and then communicating with our other, our district leaders, because again, the bright thing is that we are very, very, very versatile and very knowledgeable, because I don't have to know everything. I just know how to find the answer. And so, yeah, give me a day. I'll answer that for you. I'll figure that out. I'll help you problem solve that. Totally. I'll be on that committee. Yeah. I don't know. You guys have a better, different answer.
The mantra of librarians everywhere, right? I might not know it, but I will find out.
And I feel like when I first started my media job up in North Branch, and the way that they could keep a media specialist in every building is that they combined us with tech assistants and tech integration. And so instead of having a tech person that was spread between all the buildings, a tech integration is spread between all the buildings, one media specialist, they gave us all 3 jobs, but we were in one building. And that made a huge difference with developing relationships with staff, with students. And we found more and more the jobs did cross over. When you're just going into a one-to-one program, you needed to have your finger on all those pulses and all that action. And so that's not how it is in White Bear. And I think that that's probably the direction we're going to go to show that we have value. We're going to say, why don't you make us half media specialists, half interventionists, so that, you know, technology, not interventionists. I just said don't do that before.
Integrationist.
Tech integrationist. Thank you. Tech integrationist or innovationist, which is what Linda was saying before. And so that we can incorporate both those jobs that we kind of already do anyway. And so if you get that money from Title II, then great, support us with that. Do whatever you got to do, and so we can still have a person per building. Our elementary schools are very site-based, and they pretty much cut all the media specialists. We had to fight and fight and fight and fight and fight and fight and fight. There was only 3 in 9 buildings, so that is bad, 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 bad. But when they retired, they didn't fill the position, and we fought huge to get a curator. So at least we have like an elementary curator, and she started only at half-time, and this year she's 0.75. But this is 9 buildings. But at least we have someone who's doing the purchasing across the board, and we can make sure that the equity issue is being covered, and, you know, budgets are being spent. Before, the clerks were doing all the spending and all the ordering, and that is completely against the licensure board and Minnesota, what's it called, whatever the licensure board.
It's even against our school board policies. In many of our districts, it's against the school board policy.
To not have somebody, yeah. So if they had like secretary status, they could manage a budget. But what they didn't realize is they were also putting together the order. So it just was It was crazy, and it had been in disrepair for so many years that building it back up was going to take a long time, but we hired the right person to plant the seed that this whole program is going to be growing out of, and that is just going to keep, as we're growing and building new schools, we're just going to keep on adding people, and we'll get back there eventually. But again, to the point of the district has to value it, and they have to say, this is important. These media centers, we're going to put hundreds of thousands of dollars in the, maybe even millions of dollars in remodeling the media centers to become learning centers in the next 5 years. Who is going to run that if you don't have media staff to run it? So that's a little bit of a challenge on my end, but that's kind of where I hope that it's going, that we're just going to continue to grow a new whole program, especially at the elementary level, and continue with how great our secondary program.
Diane?
So I just, this is kind of an aside, just kind of piggybacking on what Amy said. So in my district, not all of our elementary buildings have a media specialist. I think we've got 4 that don't. They can't, they're, you know, if they've got a tech integrationist or if they have a para running the library, they cannot purchase books. They are not allowed. So they have to contract with one of the other licensed media specialists and pay them to do that work. And it's obviously it's on top of whatever your salary is, because it's outside of your duty day. So that's in one way to say, hey, you know what? If you're not going to value that position, then you don't get the benefits. So you have to pay someone to do that job. What I would love to see is for the state to say every single public school and private too, there's limits to what you can tell private schools, sometimes they're charter schools, has to have a licensed media specialist. They made a change where the kids elementary, because that's, you know, where I'm coming from, they have to have so much music and so much art a week. Why are they not having library? I mean, you know, I don't understand, especially when you look at the research that says, and because we all know all administrators or all, you know, district people, I don't want to, because my principal's awesome. And I've worked with other 4 really awesome principals, but like, it's all about test scores. And if you look at the research, the kids who have licensed media specialists perform much better on their MCAs. So if that's your measure of success, which is complete crap if you ask me, then why aren't you filling those positions with qualified people? Like, why is it just like, you know, yeah, tech is great. I love technology. I incorporate it a lot. However, we're starting to see where kids do so much in technology outside of school that sometimes they don't need to be on an iPad. Like, I can't stand putting my kindergartners on an iPad because I see them when I go out to, well, when I could go out to dinner, they'd be on an iPad or their parents' phone, or, you know, not reading a book, not playing with Play-Doh, God forbid, not talking to their family. So I don't want to see, I feel like because we're kind of getting to technology overload. And what I'm hoping is that pendulum comes back a little bit where there's not that humongous push all the time for technology, where they're using it more purposefully. So, yep, technology is great, but not everything needs to be done on an iPad. So, you know, unfortunately with COVID now, we went 1-to-1 iPads for kindergarten through 5th grade in my school. And so now my littles have iPads and we're making it work. But after COVID's done, we're not going to be doing that. So I'm hoping, I would love to see the state say, you know what, and I don't know why they don't. Like, I wish someone could tell me that. Like, because I don't know why. Like, why isn't that just a given? We know how important literacy is. We know how important it is, how much better kids do in life when they learn to read, and they love to read. Like, they become lifelong readers. So we know this, but we're not doing anything. And when I say we, it's the people above my pay grade who make the decisions. Like, why is that not happening at a state level? And actually across the country, why is that something that isn't just mandated?
I wonder too why admin programs don't teach their administrative students the importance of a media center. Like, those that do understand it, it's because they've worked with a really great media specialist. But otherwise, they have no idea. And if they've had a bad media specialist or someone who's stuck in the card catalog days or something like that, they don't see the value in this person. They don't see this person as their first reading interventionist, the first person that helps kids understand and love to read. And in our schools, at least, of course, public librarians do that every day, but like in our schools, and if they don't know that, or if they find out late in their career, it's like, ding, oh, this would benefit every single student in our entire community. Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, I've had a principal actually say that to me, like, I have never seen a media specialist so involved. Like, you talk during staff meetings. What do you mean? Of course I do. I am in, and I know at ITEM we've had this analogy for a while. You know, the old school versus new school librarians, school librarians, that there really is two schools of thought about how to go about this. An older way where you are more of an academic librarian curator versus this new idea of innovation, collaboration, and I don't know, the way that I think libraries are going. So if that's, I think, part of the problem, it goes way back to a question earlier when you were saying, I think it was about interviews and, you know, candidates' qualifications. In an interview, because I've sat in on a couple of those, you know, and helped make the decision of who we hire. And it is so clear, so very quickly, who's old school and who's new school. And those old schools are just dismissed immediately. You know, if they might have all gotten interviews, but if they're clearly showing that all they care about is curation and shelving, and that's it. Not that that's not important, but if that's your focus, schools probably aren't the place for you.
And telling the kids to be quiet in the media center.
Oh.
They can only go in one door and out one door. Oh,
Right.
God.
Right.
Okay, again, not on our question list, but we've talked about it and danced around it quite a lot, so I want to address it directly. What does advocacy look like for each of you?
Go, Linda.
You all do it to some level, so what does it look like? And I mean, I think we know, or we've learned the importance of it so far, but what does it look like? What does it mean when you're advocating for your job for media specialists? And whoever wants to tackle it first, go for it.
Why don't you go first, and then I'll come in.
Then you can go last. Fair enough.
Sweep up. But
Okay, that makes sense. You probably nail it anyway. I would have to say that I like to show that I'm a professional, not just in the building, but also in the district. So I try to participate in as many district-wide things as I can. Involve myself. Like I said before, they don't always ask me, but I show up because I think it's super important to advocate that way. I like to, and I don't want to be a total self-promoter, but if we're doing something cool in the library, I will call the press. I will call the communications director. I will call the lady who takes the pictures. I will let them know that this is going on, and they always seem to want something for their video or their newsletter or something like that. And sometimes then it gets picked up by the local press or something like that, and then now it's in the community that this person really knows what they're doing in their jobs, and they're doing all this cool stuff, or they're speaking at this national conference, or they're doing a panel with them, you know. And so I make sure that the powers that be know every time I do something that's kind of on the professional end. And if I have published an article in a paper, if I'm, you know, anything like that, so that they know that this is the professional you hired, and I'm continuing to advance myself and advance the profession and work to make our district look really good as far as this program and this department is. Advocacy as far as like student engagement, we make sure that it's not about me most of the time. I had one article that was about me, and I was like, no, does it have? No, let's have it be about the kids. And so then I rope in a bunch of kids, and I say, this is the advisory group that helped me design the library, and it was about them and how they helped design the library instead of about me. But they, you know, the name was still in there, and they still understood that it was, you know, I was the puppet master, but like, it should be about kids and how you're helping the kids in the community and the school and everything else. So I think those are at least two ways that you can start advocating in your district and in your community.
Thank you, Amy. Diane?
You know, I don't know that I have a whole lot more to add, because I know Linda's going to be like hitting it out of the park in a minute. It's just making yourself visible. You know, it's showing, like, Amy said, it's showing up for meetings that you didn't get invited to, because you can offer something, and I think in terms of, for me, and I'm not on a flex schedule, but to me, it doesn't matter if you're fixed or flex. You have with teachers, like like with my classroom teachers, I need to show them what I bring, like, what can I do for you? And when I first started out, it was like, oh, hey, I thought, we could work on this together, and just kind of throw it out there. But now it's like, I approach them with, I noticed that you've got these standards to cover, and this is what your unit of study is. And I think we should do, X, Y, Z. I come to them with a plan, right? So it's not making more work for them, because my job's hard. But I wouldn't go back to the classroom right now if you doubled my salary. There's no way. The things they're being asked to do is absolutely insane. So if I can take something off of your plate, that's my job. My job is to say, we can work together, but I'm gonna carry most of the load, because you've already got all of this other stuff you have to do. Not that we're not busy, but showing them that we are an amazing resource, not just for books. Like, yeah, I can pull 1 million books for you on this subject, or I can give you databases or references or whatever. But working with you to lighten your load is a huge piece, because if the teachers see value in what you do, they will advocate for you also. And it's not just you, waving a flag saying, hey, look at me. You have people, because I'll be really honest, I don't know what it's like at the middle school and high school, but in the elementary schools, it's like, here's the classroom teachers hierarchy, here's the specialists, right? They carry more power in the building. One, there's way more of them, but getting them to buy in, right? And to understand that you are like their best friend. I will come and we will do this, and I'll do this piece, you can do that piece, or whatever. So I think that's a big piece that we hadn't really talked about.
I would also add, Diane, that you reached out to me for this panel. You heard about it and you reached out to me and you said, I think this is a really important topic, and how can I help? And here you are speaking up for elementary media specialists everywhere. So I think that's a piece of advocacy, is that you connected with the community at large as well. So both Linda and Amy, amazing, but I actually went to them and said, please participate. So you volunteered to come and join us today.
And I'm glad I did. This has been a lot of fun. I would totally love to do this again. I mean, but I'm a nerd, like I'm a book nerd. I'm a library nerd. Like I could talk about this all day long. And let's be honest, like my family only wants to hear so much of how my day was or whatever. So it fills my bucket to be able to do this too.
It is fun to talk with others who understand. Linda, let's hear from you. What does advocacy look like?
These women knocked it out. What do you mean? They did a fantastic job. All those things and anything you can think of. Those elevator conversations, when you're standing in line with somebody, just have something ready, be really aware of what your teachers are teaching, what your district initiatives are, what are the hard things facing administrators right now. It can be as little as every single year before school starts, I email my admin and say, hey, do you have any tech needs you need? I can totally set that up for you. Keeping that positive attitude of I'm going to help you problem solve no matter what it is. Because if I have this persona that I am a positive problem solver, then when I come with a problem and a solution, I try really hard not to come with only a problem. I try to think it through, get some data, think about a couple of options, unless I'm truly at wit's end, which luckily then doesn't happen very often, but it's well received. I can go, for example, here's a COVID problem. We have $900 of books that didn't come back last year and won't, just in our building. And I can go to my principal and, hey, I don't know how to solve this, but this is the problem we have. Could we look at the COVID relief fund? Could we talk to PTO, or could we talk to teaching and learning? And could we find a way to maybe replace these books at least to some point? I mean, it can be something as simple as that, instead of saying, we lost all these books and what's the problem? Complaining about it. And then when she asked the follow-up question, well, trying to foresee what kind of questions they're going to have from their perspective, not mine, their perspective. So she asked, well, what do we normally lose in a year? oh yeah, I've got that number, somewhere between $100 and $150 worth of books. She already knows my philosophy about how books are consumable, that I don't want to break relationships, because I've talked with her enough about all this. When I get my observations, I've really encouraged my administrators, don't come and watch me teach a class, because that is you see a million of that. Yeah, come and see me anytime to do that. That's fine. I want you to come and watch me do a research group. I want to sit with you and I want to talk to you about my PLC goal or my ebooks or my budgeting or and trying to advocate through those ways. Like, you already have to do this for something like this for me. Can we tweak it a little bit so you learn a little bit more about my job? So there's that piece. Presentations, I think, are really big. Just like Amy was saying, oh my gosh, focus on the kids, focus on the kids, focus on the kids, but you're the one standing behind them. And you're the reason they got there. School board presentations, if you ever want to not just get so much attention, positive attention, bring a group of kids to a school board meeting and let them at it. Whatever they're doing, it could be, hey, these are book clubs, this is my makerspace, this is a 3D presentation, whatever you've done, offer, because at least usually in our district, all of the building principals have to find something to give to the school board once in a while. It's their turn and they're floundering. I don't know, what do we show them that's new? And they're usually an adult standing there going, wah, wah, wah. If you put kids in front of them and you're behind them, hey, here's the media specialist, and this is the kind of thing they're doing, the school board is thrilled to see something other than complaining and numbers. They are. So, I mean, I have huge advocates on the school board, and the superintendent sits on that committee, and the assistant superintendent is in the audience, and the finance person is always at those meetings. They're all there. Twitter, whenever I'm taking kids to present, whenever it's local, I take kids if I can, because then my district will usually pay for my own registration for the whole conference, which is awesome. But then the kids' parents come and bring them for that hour, drop them off. We do tons of pictures. I send it to curriculum director. I send it to the newspaper. I send it, everywhere. I'm on the website. My picture's up in the boardroom. So dumb. First time I saw that, I'm like, wait a minute, I never signed off on that. But and it's one of the only ones where I'm smiling. Like, hey, be positive, or only pictures in there. That's not super serious. Yeah, you guys are all right about advocacy. Have your numbers. Think about what they want from their perspective. What do they need to know? Dollars and cents is a lot of what admin have to deal with. So always come with concrete dollars and cents and numbers.
Related to engagement, always related to engagement and equity, because right now you will get everywhere with engagement.
Yep. Absolutely.
Good practical tips.
Yeah.
All right, we have
keep it short.
We have about 2 minutes left. So I'm just going to toss it out to you guys. Is there anything, I know we did not cover all of the questions. Is there anything that you really wanted them to know that we didn't get to? Or anything you feel a burning desire to tell them? Please take a moment.
Yeah.
Buddy.
Okay. My best story, the funniest one, is short. So there's a special ed kid, maybe 5 years ago, who was famous for running. He would take off and swear words flying and didn't want to cooperate. But he kind of had a corner in the learning center that was his corner. And, if somebody was there, he was all, oh, you're in my spot, kind of like Norm, that's my spot, get out of my spot. And one day he comes barreling into the learning center and heading for his spot, and his para's barreling after him. And he turns to her in our completely silent learning center. I just want some GD quiet, and not using GD. Screams it. Love that story. Not library related, just fun.
I had a 8th grade group come in as a tour as they were learning about the high school, and we had just done the new media center in North, and they walked in and they looked around, and it's a circle. My space is a circle. I can't explain it. 1964. And they walked in and they went, this place is the bomb. This can't be a media center. And I was like, yeah. But that was one of my favorites.
Very nice. And I appear to have lost Diane. I don't know if her connection got cut off or something, but she's no longer here. So we are at 6:30. So I want to take a moment to say thank you to the panelists, including Diane, who apparently is no longer with us. This was amazing. This was such a fun conversation. I feel like I could sit here and talk to you guys for like at least another hour. This was great fun. You guys have great stories, and you're so passionate about what you do, and I think it really shows. So thank you also to all of our attendees for the questions. Please tune in on October 21st, which will be our next one, where we'll be talking with government librarians. That should be a fun session. So we have a librarian from the Braille and Talking Book Library, DEED, which is the Department of, Ann, help me out here. Ann, you're muted.
Department of Employment and Economic Development.
I couldn't remember the first one. I knew economic and I couldn't remember the first one. Okay, Employment and Economic Development. And then we also have the librarian from NASA. I'm sure they have more than one at NASA. We have a librarian from NASA who is going to be sitting on that panel as well. Lynn would like you to stay around for 2 minutes afterward for a quick conversation, so please don't log out. And if there's nothing else, thank you everyone for coming. This was a great session. Amy, thanks so much. Linda, thanks so much.
Thanks for having us. Thank you, Metronet, for all you do. Oh, you're great.
Yes,
Thank
you.
you. Thank you.
Good to see you guys.
All right, I am going to jump over here and I'm going to, Lynn, I'm going to pop you up to panelist again. And then if you flip on your camera, you and Linda will be able to see each other. And I have a couple of things that I got to do here. I'm at the office right now. So you guys feel free to chat as long as you need to. And I will just,
You there?
Okay, great, thanks. Hey, Linda.
Hey, how are you?
I'm a little frantic, I think.
Yeah,
Lately.
I understand.
I remember what I was doing last week on Thursday, even though I had it on my schedule. About once every 9 months, I go to bed like 6 o'clock at night because I've just had it up here.
Yeah.
So that's what I did. I just have to admit it. That's where I was at.
Literally, I think there was only 6 people that included Olivia and me. I mean, we all were just said right off, we are exhausted. We completely exhausted. And if I hadn't been hosting last week, I wouldn't have shown up. There's no way. I'd have been asleep on the couch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'll just make this quick. I'm trying to apply for grants because the grants are November to December. And, we made a list. I even contributed to the list. Do you think I could find the list? It's on a sticky note. It's attached to something. You have a list. I'm starting to make one from scratch. And I'm like, somebody probably has one.
I didn't write anything down.
And it's not in any of our notes. I kind of looked back and I didn't see anything.
I don't even, honestly, my brain is just smoking. Trying to even think of what we thought of. All I know we talked about the scholarships to go to MLA, and I don't.
Yeah. No, I'm talking about library grants for books because we didn't get a lot of our books back, and we're hurting financially.
Right.
Because we get paid per student being a charter school, and we lost just a lot of students because they went directly to like Minnesota Connections Academy. They went straight to online schools who've been doing this a long time.
Yeah, I think we lost over 300 kids to private because they were going every day in person.
Oh, yep. I bet we lost a few to there as well, but we're also a very low income district.
Right. Yeah, and we're split. Depends on which community we're drawing from. Some are very wealthy, some are very not. Migrant and trailers, multiple families living in trailer.
Yeah. Okay, well, I just thought you might have something.
Shoot, I can't think. I know in the past, ones that I can just think of off the top of my head, Dollar Tree has done something. If you have a Dollar Tree or a dollar store, one of the two, right there in the in your
I
area.
already checked and they don't do anything.
They're not doing it.
Everyone says Dollar Tree, but they don't.
Oh, they don't. Okay.
Well, they do, but it's not in context of buying books. So
Yeah.
get it.
Oh,
But anyway,
sure.
Walmart. There's a Minnesota Grant Watch. There's Snapdragon Book Foundation.
Oh, I've not even heard of those.
Yeah, maybe it's just a fresh start. And looking at it again is what it's going to take. But I know I had a list here. Just plug it.
Shoot. Well, add it to the agenda for December when I send that out. If I forget, that we ask that, because I remember seeing your email about grants and then saying, "Oh, I can't think of anything," and I'm sure it just fell farther down in my
Oh God,
queue. So
I totally get it. Mm-hmm. All righty. Well, I won't keep you any
Sorry.
longer.
No, it's
Oh,
okay.
no problem.
Yeah. Time for
Alrighty.
dinner, right? We both have to go finish up dinner.
I made dinner while I was listening. Actually.
Did you?
I just
Oh, what do you?
got really loud in the kitchen and made a shepherd's pie for my brother and I. He can't wait
Oh,
until 7 o'clock to eat. It's too long because he
yeah.
eats his lunch at work at 11 o'clock. So
My husband's similar. Yeah. He has to kind of put up with my late hours sometimes. So yeah. Shepherd's pie, that sounds fantastic.
oh, it was delicious.
Scrambled eggs because it's fast once I'm done. So breakfast for dinner.
Right. Right. All right. Well, you have a nice evening and you
Yeah.
did a great job tonight.
Oh, it was just fun to talk to people, and that's not hard. You're not presenting, you're just talking.
I remember, kind of a hurtful or sore spot for me is when I took my library class. And one of my first classes, we had to prepare advocacy.
Mm.
And, it's like, I've had like 5 sessions with you. And now you want me to be a library advocate. I didn't feel like I have enough tools underneath my belt to do that. It's like, that's something you would do at the end of the program. It was just, and, I just didn't feel like I could do the project justice.
No.
And prepare something like you're going to go talk to a board. Well, most of us don't go talk to boards very often.
You're right. I forgot that some of the audience would be not practicing librarians, that they would be in school. I hadn't even considered that would be an audience because I don't expect them to go to the board.
Oh, and it's like, I would love to be on a teacher preparation committee because I think it's just all wonky what they're having teachers do and librarians do to prepare for being teachers and librarians. Everything I've learned, most of it, honestly, I've learned on my own. Not that my classes were junk. I wouldn't say that at all. But
on the job, though.
A lot of it I learned on my own. That's the truth of the matter. And I learn a lot by coming to the meetings, which is why I'm like, oh, I can't believe I missed the meeting last night. But
honestly, last time was mainly just, hey, where are you guys all at right now?
Mm-hmm.
It was a lot of that. So I don't think we really got into much new. The few things that we talked about for successes, one of the districts there at the district level put in Destiny, like homeroom A or homeroom B, like if it's the homeroom teacher's last name and A, if they were hybrid, the group that comes Monday, Tuesday, and then B, if they were on Thursday, Friday. That was just mind-blowing for me. I have no way of knowing in Destiny if a kid is here today or not. I have to go out to a whole separate system.
Right.
So that was one thing. Talked about just some distance learning successes that different people have had, that it helps, that, since none of us can make our kids turn the camera on, it's actually nice to teach both in person and kids at home at the same time, do that synchronously because they want to see each other.
Okay.
So that was one of the things. I'm trying to remember what else was on the agenda. Yeah, it was a lot of, we are so tired. And what are we doing?
Our teachers are too. They're so tired of the screen time. They're tired of Schoology not working. They're tired of not syncing up, with Infinite Campus and all the little nuances. And there's big discussions about having kids turn on their camera. If they are they participating? When you can have them have it off. Kids, our kids spend a lot of time trying to be somebody else and break into a class. There's a lot of, discipline issues going on with that.
We've surprisingly had very few. We're just starting to, and this month is going to be the month. We've had very few, and only at other buildings where someone has put on, like used an avatar that was politically incorrect or, very divisive. And so that's had to be addressed, but you can't, like, putting on a MAGA hat or, your Antifa or whatever you really can't address, they get to do that. It's, when the rainbow flag was on fire, you don't get to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would say our teachers are doing better. I mean, it's still really, really hard, but at least now we're kind of in a rhythm since we've been in hybrid for a while. I really worry. I'm glad it hasn't happened that we've had to shift back and forth between models as fast as they had warned us we might. We talked about, what else did we talk about? We talked about delivering books, delivering materials versus having online kids pick things up. Let's see, that, I don't know, I'm not a fan of delivery because our first attempt at it didn't go very well, but and I'm not doing that for library books, but we are going to now go anything. I help with online teachers materials. So we are going to start delivering everything for the online teachers. The bus routes doing that, but.
Right. Well, we have we bought books for all the students instead of subscribing to an ebook subscription for students or audiobooks because they were so frightfully expensive. And I think about 50 students haven't picked up their materials yet. I counted.
Yeah. I think just at my building, between the different classes, I probably had 30 bags that were going home to students for various reasons, why they didn't come and pick them up on the distribution day. But now we're just going to deliver to all, let's see, my building has 115 kids that are online only right now. So we're just going to, everybody gets a delivery every 2 weeks if there's something that needs to go.
Oh, okay. We're big in food distribution because of the low income.
Sure. Yeah, we have
Everyone's getting a free lunch.
Depends. Yeah, it depends. If you're a Monday, Tuesday kid, then it might be everybody because there was a huge amount of bags down there today or yesterday of food distribution. But yeah, I'm sure you have way more than we do because I'm at the affluent middle school, so very few of our families. The percentage is much lower than at the other buildings. It's very inequitable. All right. So yeah, watch for December 3rd though. I'll send
it on my calendar.
Awesome. Okay, and if I don't send you the email in the next 3 days, email me. Linda.
Okay, Linda, I will. Okay.
It was good to see you, Lynn.
You too, Linda. Talk to you later.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks again, Olivia. Have a good night.
Olivia. Bye-bye.
Go home.
I'm leaving very shortly, like 2 more minutes, I promise.
I see the lights off. That's good.
Yes, I'm ready to go. I just got to pack up, so.
How are you hanging in there?
I'm doing okay. We're fully work from home.
Yeah.
So for some reason, my home Wi-Fi, which is great, does not do well with Zoom. So whenever I'm at home, this meeting kind of cuts in and out. So I come into the office basically just to do this, which is a nice break to get out of the house. And there's no one here, so sitting by myself.
Sure.
But yeah, I'm doing okay. It's starting to wear. In the beginning, I loved it. I was like, yay, I love working from home and da-da-da. But now it's starting to get a little like, what day is it? What week is it? What I don't know what's,
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, that's how I felt. I mean, I'm going to the building 4 days a week. At first it was like, this is good. I'm getting so much done. And now I don't think I can do this much longer. It's like, I gotta get my principal and see if she's willing to let kids start moving in the halls more. And I don't think we can. You gotta try chasing, but.
Well, it's things like this Zoom with the time screw up. Like, was that me? Or was that Zoom? Like, I don't know.
No.
It's hard to say. Like, maybe I screwed something up because I don't know. Everything just kind of, it's hard. What they call it, pandemic brain. Like, I feel like
Yes.
that's a real thing. Like, and I'm suffering a little bit. So
Yeah. At least that's another silver lining though. I see so many people are just so flexible and they're so helpful. You know, people will jump in, kids will jump in. Oh, you know, it's Control D, or, you know, try this, or it's okay, Mrs. Dirks. And yeah, that part has been really lovely. Our discipline issues have been way down because, and that's a good thing and a bad thing. I mean, it's good, of course, not discipline, but, you know, bad thing that they're kind of just muted. The kids feel muted.
I'm sure they do. I mean, I can't even, I have little nieces and nephews who are elementary age, and it's like a whole thing. And, you know, it's like, I don't know, who knows what the future is going to hold, what school is going to look like next year or the year after, or 5-10 years from now, you know?
What things will never, no matter what happens with vaccines and such, what will never go back. I mean, hey, if I could do this Wednesday work from home every week, oh, so many teachers are saying, this I could do. If I had one day a week to teach like this, I could survive the rest of the week. That has gotten so hard and had so many teachers sick in the profession. So, well, I'm glad you're doing well. I am. It's good to see you.
You too. It's so nice to chat and catch up. And so,
are you part of Teen? I don't know what Teen Lit kind of look like this year, but
you know, we don't either. We are at this moment planning on moving forward because we don't know, because it's not until April of 2021, and we can't, you know, we have to plan early. This is a long process. So I don't know. I don't know what it's going to look like at this moment in time. I kind of have my doubts that a large group gathering like that is going to happen in April. That just isn't that far away. It's 6 months from now, you know?
By Easter. By Easter. By Easter. Easter.
But, you know, with luck, things will go forward, or maybe they'll figure out some way to do at least parts of it virtual so we don't have to completely abandon it like we did last year, you know?
Yeah, that would be good. Yeah,
I'm sure the kids are.
It's so much work. The kids were, of course they were. And I was too. I mean, we're all disappointed because it's a
great day.
Yeah, it was the right call, without a doubt.
For sure. Yeah.
Well, if there's anything I can do to help with that, you know, or anything else, reach out. I'm more than happy to.
You know, I do. You were my first call for this panel, as a matter of fact. I was like, I need a media specialist. How about Linda? So
I'm honored. That's awesome. I'm so glad. Oh. All right, let's go eat. Okay. Bye.
Yes, go eat. I'm going to go home, and thank you again. I appreciate it.
Thanks. You too.
All right. Bye, Linda.